A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew, chapter 16. The Pharisees ask for a sign from heaven. The Pharisees and Sadducees came, and to put him to the test, they asked him to show them a sign from heaven. He replied, "In the evening you say it will be fine, there's a red sky. And in the morning, stormy weather today, the sky is red and overcast. You know how to read the face of the sky. Can you not read the signs of the times? It is an evil and unfaithful generation asking for a sign, and the only sign it will be given is the sign of Jonah." And he left them and went off. The disciples, having crossed to the other side, had forgotten to take any bread. Jesus said to them, "Watch out. Beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees." And they said among themselves, "It is because we have not brought any bread." Jesus knew it, and he said, "You have so little faith. Why are you talking among yourselves about having no bread? Do you still not understand? Do you not remember the 5 loaves for the 5,000 and the number of baskets you collected? Or the 7 loaves for the 4,000 and the number of baskets you collected? How could you fail to understand that I was not talking about bread? What I said was, beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees. Then they understood that he was telling them to beware not of yeast for making bread, but of the teaching of the Pharisees and Sadducees. Peter's profession of faith. When Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, he put this question to his disciples: "Who do people say the Son of Man is?" And they said, "Some say John the Baptist, some Elijah, and others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." He said to them, "But you, who do you say I am?" In answer, Simon Peter said, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." In reply, Jesus said to him, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father in heaven. So I now say to you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of the underworld will never overpower it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." Then he instructed the disciples not to tell anyone that he was the Messiah. First prophecy of the Passion. From then onwards, Jesus began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer grievously at the hands of the elders and chief priests and scribes, and to be put to death, and to be raised up on the 3rd day. Then, taking him aside, Peter began to rebuke him, saying, "Heaven preserve you, Lord. This must not happen to you." But he turned and said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me because you are thinking not as God thinks, but as humans do." Then Jesus said to his disciples, "Anyone who wants to be a follower of mine must renounce self and take up the cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save life will lose it, but whoever loses life for my sake will find it. How does it profit someone to gain the whole world and forfeit life? Or what could anyone give in exchange for life? For the Son of Man is going to come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and then he will reward each one according to behavior. Amen, I say to you. There are some standing here who will not taste death before they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom." The word of the Lord. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew, chapter 17, the Transfiguration. 6 days later, Jesus took with him Peter and James and his brother John and led them up a high mountain on their own. In their presence, he was transfigured. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became as dazzling as light. And suddenly, Moses and Elijah appeared to them, talking with him. Then Peter spoke to Jesus, saying, "Lord, it is wonderful for us to be here. If you want me to, I will make 3 shelters here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." He was still speaking when suddenly a bright cloud covered them with shadow. And suddenly from the cloud there came a voice which said, "This is my Son, the Beloved. He enjoys my favor. Listen to him." When they heard this, the disciples fell on their faces, overcome with fear. But Jesus came up and touched them, saying, "Stand up, do not be afraid." And when they raised their eyes, they saw no one but Jesus himself, alone. As they came down from the mountain, Jesus gave them this order: "Tell no one about this vision until the Son of Man has risen from the dead." And the disciples put this question to him: "Why then do the scribes say that Elijah must come first?" He replied, "Elijah is indeed coming, and he will set everything right again. However, I tell you that Elijah has come already, and they did not recognize him, but they did what they liked with him. And the Son of Man will suffer similarly at their hands." Then the disciples understood that he was speaking of John the Baptist. The epileptic demoniac. As they were rejoining the crowd, a man came up to him and went down on his knees before him, saying, "Lord, have mercy on my son. He is demented and in a wretched state. He is always falling into fire and into water. I took him to your disciples, and they were unable to cure him." In reply, Jesus said, "Faithless and perverse generation, how much longer must I be with you? How much longer must I put up with you? Bring him here to me." And when Jesus rebuked it, the demon came out of him, and the boy was cured from that hour. Then the disciples came to Jesus on their own and said, "Why were we unable to drive it out?" He answered, "Because you have so little faith. Amen, I say to you, if your faith is the size of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you." Second prophecy of the Passion. When they were together in Galilee, Jesus said to them, "The Son of Man is going to be delivered into the power of men. They will put him to death, and on the third day he will be raised up again." And a great sadness came over them. The temple tax. When they reached Capernaum, the collectors of the half shekel came to Peter and said, "Does your teacher not pay the half shekel?" He replied, "Yes." And as he went into the house, Jesus forestalled him, saying, "Simon, what is your opinion? From whom do earthly kings take toll or tribute? From their citizens or from foreigners?" And when he replied, "From foreigners," Jesus said, "Well then, the citizens are exempt. However, so that we do not cause them to stumble, go to the lake and cast a hook. Take the first fish that rises, open its mouth, and there you will find a shekel. Take it and give it to them, for me and for yourself." The word of the Lord.